Every manager of a high-value landscape, whether you're tending a championship golf course or overseeing thousands of acres of fruit trees, you share the same problem.
A relentless one.
It is. You walk your property, and what do you actually see? You see green, or maybe you see a little bit of brown.
And by then, you've missed it.
You've missed the early warnings entirely. The human eye, it's just not designed to detect that kind of subtle stress. We're functionally blind to nutrient imbalances or irrigation issues until the problem is a huge, expensive disaster.
It's the operational blind spot. And in today's environment with, climate volatility, water regulations getting tighter and tighter, those how did we miss that moments.
Yeah.
They don't just cut your yield.
Right.
They can threaten the entire operation.
Absolutely. So our mission today is a deep dive into the tech that's starting to solve this. We've got sources on a company called Power and Designs. It was co-founded by cousins Christopher Flynn and John Thomas. And they are using drone-based multispectral imaging to fundamentally change how land is managed, to give people that X-ray vision they need.
And what's really crucial to get about them right off the bat is their philosophy. They aren't in the business of selling, fancy gadgets or complicated software.
It's not about the drone.
It's not about the drone. They are selling fewer surprises. They combine Chris's tech and fabrication background with John's deep roots in agriculture to deliver, actual answers, not just pretty maps.
And that distinction, answers, not maps, that's everything. We're talking about these high-stakes environments, right? Especially in places like California's Central Valley.
Oh, for sure.
These are managers who are already doing everything right by the book, but they're still leaving value on the table because they lack this objective, measurable data.
Exactly. The promise here isn't just, a little improvement. It's the ability to step in proactively, to catch a problem weeks before you can see it, and to put your expensive inputs, water, fertilizer, labor only, where you actually need them.
Okay, so let's unpack this technology. We all know what standard drone footage looks like, right? It's a great high-res photo.
A bird's eye view.
But Power and Designs uses multispectral imaging. So if I'm a land manager looking at one of their reports, how is that picture different from, say, the satellite image on my phone?
It's a great question. It's the difference between hearing a plant cough and actually hearing its heartbeat.
Okay.
Standard imagery just captures what we see, red, green, and blue light. Multispectral imaging captures light beyond what we can perceive. And critically, it focuses on the near-infrared wavelength. NIR.
And why is near-infrared the secret weapon here?
Because that's the plant's secret language. So think about chlorophyll. A healthy photosynthesizing plant reflects a massive amount of this near-infrared light. It's a defense mechanism, basically, to keep from overheating.
I see.
But the second a plant gets stressed from water, heat, pests, whatever, its internal cell structure changes. Chlorophyll production slows down.
Which means
the reflection of that invisible NIR light it plummets. And we can combine those NIR readings with the visible light to create something called a vegetation index.
like NDVI.
Exactly like NDVI. It just turns that difference, high NIR reflection for healthy, low for stressed, into a simple color-coded map. You're quantifying health based on what's happening inside the plant, not just its color on the outside.
That makes so much sense. It's an internal health signal.
Mm-hmm.
And the data isn't just showing stress. It can pinpoint where soil or moisture is dragging down yield across a massive area.
Exactly right. The key insights are really threefold. First, where is photosynthesis most efficient?
Okay.
Second, where is that invisible stress happening, often weeks early? And third, how are these patterns changing over time?
This all sounds incredible, but I have to ask about the cost. If I'm managing a huge vineyard, getting this level of detail multiple times a season, that has to be way more expensive than just sending guys out to scout, right? That's a real challenge on thin margins.
It's a totally legitimate concern. And that's why the workflow has to be so efficient. The cost is only justified because they focus on what they call the action loop.
Action loop.
It's not just about flying the drone. It's about making that imagery pay for itself fast. So the cycle is, you plan a flight for a specific objective, say post-bloom stress. Then you process the raw data into calibrated maps.
And then comes the important part.
The interpretation and delivery. They turn all that dense data into clear reports, into practical guidance. They actually sit down with the manager and figure out, okay, here's the problem. What do we actually change?
So it's a consultation.
It's a consultation. The manager acts, adjusts irrigation or whatever, and the next flight verifies if it worked. It's this continuous, measurable improvement cycle. They're consultants who use drones, not the other way around.
Okay, let's move from the concept to the concrete results in agriculture. We have this compelling case study about almonds in the San Joaquin Valley.
Yeah, this one's great.
The sources say that to the orchard manager, everything looked uniformly healthy from the ground. So what did the X-ray vision show?
Well, the map revealed this profound, if subtle, issue. The data showed the orchard was absolutely not uniform. There were these large, persistent zones of lower health,
And it was in a specific pattern.
a very specific V-shaped stress pattern across the entire block, and it showed up on every single flight.
And this is where it gets really interesting. That V pattern lined up perfectly with a decades-old subsurface drainage line running right under the trees.
That's the power of this kind of detail. This invisible piece of infrastructure was causing, just enough soil saturation or maybe a salinity issue, just enough to stress the trees and drag down vigor.
But not enough for him to see it.
Not enough to see it. He was just accepting that lower yield as normal field variability, a ghost in the machine.
So instead of a blanket treatment across the whole orchard, the grower just took soil samples in those V zones.
Right. And they adjusted their irrigation and fertilizer programs only in that flagged area.
And the result?
It paid off almost immediately. The next season, he saw a huge pickup in uniformity in those areas. It proved that without that map, he would have just kept accepting that drag on his yield year after year.
That is the definition of efficiency. Now let's switch to a high-value crop like strawberries. The pressure there is even more intense.
Oh, yeah.
We have a case where a field's performance was patchy, and the sort of default advice was just more fertilizer. Throw more fertilizer on everything to push productivity.
Which is the conventional wisdom, right?
Yeah.
But it's also a very costly reaction to a problem you don't fully understand.
So Power and Designs flew the field. What did they find?
Again, very specific causes. The map showed a corner with consistently low vigor. Turns out cold air was pooling there. Fertilizer wasn't going to fix that. It also showed a stressed band along one edge, probably from irrigation or soil compaction.
But the critical piece was the big interior zone of the field.
That's it. The map showed the strawberry rows were perfectly fine. Great vigor. They needed zero additional fertilizer.
So that's the immediate financial win.
A huge one. The grower avoided spending a ton of money on inputs that would have been completely wasted. Instead, they focused their resources on fixing the irrigation in that one stressed band. The grower basically said they saved money by having a good reason not to treat huge parts of their property.
That's incredible. The ability to save money by not overreacting is just as valuable as fixing a problem.
Sometimes more so.
And we saw something similar with vineyards in Temecula. Yields were slipping, but the vines, they looked fine to the eye.
Right. In that case, the data showed this subtle but consistent gradient of declining vigor down one side of a block.
And they traced it back.
They did. An aging irrigation line combined with a shallow pocket of soil, and this created what the founders called the zoom-in, don't panic effect.
Meaning the manager didn't have to freak out about the whole vineyard.
Exactly. Instead of guessing, the team was directed to 12 specific rows. 12. They checked the water pressure, tested emitters, changed the schedule for just that small area, and they got much more uniform canopy growth the next year. It turns this huge, overwhelming question into a small, manageable engineering puzzle. And the transition to, say, golf and turf management is pretty seamless. The stakes there are both aesthetic and financial.
For sure. Superintendents are under this massive pressure to have perfect conditions, but also save water, use fewer chemicals.
And they're stuck with a ground-level view.
So let's talk about the coastal course that used this. They weren't just diagnosing problems. They were actually managing their water usage.
Yes, and that's huge in regulated areas. That course used the maps to provide hard evidence to, ownership in the water board. The maps immediately flagged greens with subtle heat and moisture stress, which is a sign of trouble to come.
But it also found the opposite problem.
Just as importantly, yes, it spotted overwatered patches right near sprinkler heads, just wasted resources.
So with that data in hand, the superintendent could fine-tune sprinkler runtimes, literally zone by zone.
And they could also see where high stress and soil compaction overlapped, so they could prioritize aeration exactly where it would do the most good.
And this led to a pretty incredible quote from that superintendent.
It's a phenomenal quote. He said the technology turned turf management from art and argument into art and data. He could finally go to his board with measurable visual evidence. It replaced all that subjective back and forth with objective facts.
I love that. Okay, another example.
Yeah.
A course used the imagery as an experience design tool. What does that even mean?
It's a really smart application. They started by overlaying the turf health data with player traffic patterns.
Oh, interesting.
So they looked at areas near tees and around the greens, the most visually important spots for members, and saw how they lined up with turf stress.
So the club rerouted golf carts away from sensitive turf, and they focused their renovation budget on those visually key spots that were struggling agronomically.
And the outcome was an improved feel of the course for the members. It's a huge competitive advantage, right? You're making members happier while also spending your money more efficiently.
It's brilliant. And finally, let's talk about the relief of stopping what they call ghost chasing.
Right.
There was this patchy approach area near a green. Staff had tried everything. More water, less water, different fertilizers. Nothing worked.
And you can imagine the frustration when you're doing everything right by the book and getting zero results. The map solved the mystery instantly. The stress pattern aligned perfectly with a buried utility corridor.
It's amazing that the land it remembers what we've done to it, if you know how to look.
It holds on to that story. The turf over that corridor was just shallow-rooted. It was always going to be more vulnerable to heat, so the staff could immediately stop over-fixing a problem that was infrastructural.
And they could set realistic expectations.
Exactly, and shift their time and money to areas where they could actually make a difference. The value sometimes is just knowing when to stop. So moving beyond these single discoveries, the real strategic value here is in building what they call a memory for the land.
Right. A single map is useful. It's a snapshot.
It's a helpful snapshot. But a stack of maps over several seasons, that's what delivers the real long-term ROI.
Which speaks directly to capital planning. So how do you build that digital memory in a way that helps a manager decide on future infrastructure?
It's all about consistency. They fly missions at the same growth stages year after year, and crucially, the client tags those maps with notes on every management change. Fertilizer applied here, new irrigation schedule here, aeration performed on this date.
So you can literally track the measurable impact of every single intervention.
That's it. You can compare this season's map to last season's and actually calculate the return on investment. Did that expensive upgrade actually fix the V-shaped stress pattern? Did the new water schedule save water and improve uniformity?
It moves these huge spending decisions from sort of hopeful gut feelings to quantitative analysis.
It helps clients know where that next $1 million investment will actually pay off.
But with years of data piling up, how do you avoid just data overload? I mean, these managers are busy. They don't have time to become data scientists.
And that's where Power and Designs focuses on what they call radical translation.
Radical translation.
They take all those dense indices and they distill them into simple, color-coded zones. The whole point of the report is to tell the client where to drive their truck today.
So it's basically triage.
It's triage. The philosophy is red zone means go here now, this needs urgent attention. Yellow zone is keep an eye on this. And green zone means don't waste your time or money here. Things are good. It's about focusing attention, not creating noise.
It sounds like that human element is just non-negotiable. The sources really stress that the founders have to show up like partners, not just tech bros dropping off a hard drive.
That is the real differentiator. They get the immense pressure these managers are under. And by giving them quiet confidence, by giving them fewer surprises, they empower them to make really solid, defensible decisions. They're not selling a gadget. They're selling certainty. So if we connect all this to the bigger picture, this multispectral data, it's not replacing a professional's intuition.
Yeah.
It's validating it. It's informing it. It's amplifying it, giving that intuition this constant, measurable, revisitable data history. It lets managers move from just reacting and guessing to precise, efficient, and defensible action.
Which is really what you need to survive economically today.
It's a
So what does this all mean for the future? If this kind of precision approach, fueled by this multi-seasonal data, by quantitative ROI tracking, if this becomes the absolute norm in land management over the next decade, how will the roles of traditional consulting and agronomy need to change? Will the next generation of experts be defined less by their intuition alone and more by their fluency in translating this raw data into real-world capital decisions? Something to ponder next time you see a field of healthy almonds or admire a perfectly kept golf fairway.